Trish Welch. I'm Director of Career Services here at Austin Community College, and I'd like to welcome you to this episode of The Forum. The Forum is a roundtable talk show that gives us a space to discuss openly pertinent topics concerning ACC and our community with various faculty, staff, and of course with our students. Today we will be discussing career readiness and the job search. Joining me today are our talented experts of career and transfer specialists, Chantel Harper, Edgar Medina, and Abigail Garza. Welcome. I'd like to take a moment to allow our team to introduce themselves so you can get to know them a little bit. We're going to start off with Chantel Harper.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chantel Harper. I'm the Career and Transfer Specialist for the North Region. I cover the San Gabriel, Cypress, Northridge, and the Round Rock campus. My office is actually located at the Round Rock campus. I started here at ACC almost 2 years ago. January 8th will be my 2-year anniversary here at ACC. As a CNT, I was the first CNT hired on. I transitioned from Workforce Solutions as a lead career counselor for the WIOA program. So my background has been in career services for the last 4 years, working extensively with those that are underserved and those that are looking to retrain and get back into the workforce. So I'm excited about being a part of the ACC team, especially our career and transfer services department. So it's a great opportunity to be here today to discuss what we do and how we do it so well.
Thank you, Chantel.
Okay,
Edgar?
My name is Edgar Medina, and I'm also a career and transfer specialist, actually for the Central Region, which includes Highland, Elgin, Rio Grande, and Eastview campuses. I come originally from California. I've been working with various workforce agencies, and most recently lived in San Antonio and worked with Alamo colleges for about 7 years in career services. And happy to say now that I passed my 1-year anniversary. We're here with ACC. A little bit of background. This is my third career. I previously worked in the banking industry and the legal industry, and I'm very excited about bringing knowledge about industry as well as job readiness and career preparation to students. I recently graduated from UT, the University of Texas at Austin, just want to say it formally, with my master's degree in higher education administration. So I am, I think, a good example of a re-entry student, someone who hadn't been in school for years. Let's see, I really enjoy working with students, especially people who have multiple experiences and career backgrounds, and really look forward to taking our department and our services to the next level.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Edgar. And our newest member of our team, we'd like to welcome Abigail Garza. She's been here with us since July.
That's right.
And has already hit the ground running. So Abigail, we'd love to hear a little about you and your background.
Course. As Trish has mentioned, my name is Abigail Garza, and I have been here approximately almost 5 months. Who can believe that?
Right.
So I am a recent graduate from the University of Texas at Austin. Actually, me and Edgar were classmates at some point in time. And you know, my background has really been within higher education, but now I'm very excited to be able to, you know, support students as they are transitioning from being students to, you know, having a full-time position or part-time, you know, whatever their needs are. So it has been very fulfilling work and being able to help students in that regard. So just my background, like as I mentioned before, I worked extensively in higher ed, so just very excited to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So thank you, each of you. Our team really, they have really diverse backgrounds and experiences that they bring to our team and the services that they provide to our students. So thank you, each of you, for being here today, and we're going to let them each talk about a topic. So we're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be back with more in just a bit. Welcome back to the forum. We're discussing today career services and how we can assist you with your job search and your resume preparation and interview prep. We're going to start off today, talking to Abigail Garza. She's going to guide us a little bit through the resume creation process, and she's going to talk a little bit from our Career Essentials Guide. We'll talk about this throughout our presentation today, but Abigail, if you could start us off and lead us into how to create a resume.
Yes, of course. So there are actually various types of resumes, and what your resume ends up fitting within those categories of those different types of resumes can actually have an impact on your job seeking process, job outcomes. So it's a good idea to be aware of the different types of resumes. So the ones that I want to right now focus on is the generic / master resume and the targeted resume. So the generic resume is really one of those resumes that has a overview of your job history and accomplishments. And from your generic resume, you can really then utilize what would be called your target resume to target different positions. So you already have your master copy, you can treat it that way. And then your target resume can really focus on, for you to pick out those key relevant skills, accomplishments,
That's a really great tip for our students. A lot of students, when they're creating their generic or their master resume, right, they tend to want to send that one to everyone instead of targeting it to a job. And that's really where the key to success can be, is in targeting that to the position you're applying for.
And when we meet with students, we're really intentional about asking them, hey, what are the positions that you've been looking at? And from there, steering the conversation where, hey, it seems like on this job posting, they're really emphasizing on these skill sets. Hey, look at the language that they're using. This is what we want to incorporate into your resume. Because again, whenever your resume goes through the applicant tracking system, which all that means is that it goes through a machine before it even reaches a person.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that by the time it reaches an individual, they can also see, hey, this is a really good impression that I'm having of this person based on what is being stated on here.
And a lot of our students aren't even aware of that. They know that there's a system it goes through, but to knowing that it's called the applicant tracking system, really, and how it shoots out so many, it screens out your resume. That's what it's designed to do. They really want to get to the candidate that's going to be best for them. And where you come in so handy, each of our specialists do, is really helping the students beat those applicant tracking systems with your targeted resume advice and experience.
Definitely. And if you're wondering whether you are in the process of creating your resume for the first time, or you already have one, but it might be several years old, let's kind of walk through real quick what are the different elements that a resume should have. So, you should have your name, of course.
Yes.
So your header should include your name, a professional email, and of course a phone number. And nowadays you don't have to put your full address. You can just put the state and the city, and that is sufficient. And that's the header. And then if you continue on with what we call a professional summary. So professional summary really is 1 or 2 or 2 to 3 sentences of your most attractive qualification, experiences, accomplishments that are relevant to the job, and you're really trying to convince the employer of, hey, I'm not just saying to you, I want this job, I'm telling you why I'm qualified for it.
Exactly.
That's a great tip to bring up. Many times, and up until recently, the objective statement was really what was put on the resume. And employers now, they don't want to know what the employer can do for the student. The student wants to show what they can do for the employer. So flipping that objective statement into a more modern summary or professional summary statement is a really good tip to let our students know about. So thank you for sharing that.
And to continue the conversation, what kind of falls after your professional summary should be, your education, whether you are changing careers or you're just fresh from the boat and starting that career. Being able to show your education, because that's probably where your most relevant and strong skills are coming from. So we want to definitely highlight. And afterwards you can show work experience, because again, in those bullet points from your work experience, you can talk about your transferable skills, and we definitely want employers to see those. And then right afterwards, you can tie it all up with different skill sets that you have.
Yes, great tips. So I know one of the challenges that a lot of our students face. I face it myself. It's very difficult to talk about yourself, to brag about yourself, and to really identify those key transferable skills. Writing an accomplishment statement is hard, right? So can you provide some good tips and advice for us on how we can really format or formulate thought processes when we're sitting down to design our accomplishment statements for our resumes?
Okay, so for our students, the accomplishment statements are those bullet points that you have under your work experience.
The dreaded bullet points.
Yes, the different, for your different positions. So what employers don't want to see is just a list of what your responsibilities were. That doesn't tell them the story. It doesn't tell them what makes you unique as a potential candidate or employee. So what we really want to see is like your accomplishments. Our resume is accomplishment driven. So one of the methods that we utilize with students, and again, students can do this on their own as well, is what we call a PAR method. What PAR stands for is problem, action, and result. So part of that is,
And you have that listed in the
we
career
do
guide.
Yes,
our
so we
Career
actually do
Essentials
have
guide
listed on our Career Essentials guide.
on page 23.
Yes, and PAR, again, P, problem. So identify, and this calls for self-reflection. You have to think of a problem or an issue that your organization has encountered, and what was your role within that? So first think of that, identify that. Next is action. So what action did you partake in, to resolve that issue? And that kind of falls into result. So granted, we want a positive outcome, of course. We also really push for you to quantify. And what that means is that give us numbers.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Important.
So, for example, whether you work as a sales associate, as a cashier, you have those transferable skills, and it's good for you to, be able to elaborate on those. So, for example, if you are someone who, let's just say, with your very effective customer service skills, maybe you identified that, hey, like our sales weren't meeting up to the objective of like the company. And you took it upon yourself to refine those skills in order to increase, let's just say 5% of the sale, like exceeding the sales outcome for, let's just say, that particular month. You can detail that. That is what we want to see. That's what employers want to see, and that's what's gonna, hopefully help you land that job that you need.
That's very good advice.
I just wanted to add to that, sometimes the student who has limited work experience doesn't have a lot of that to put in, but I always ask them to include promotions, perks, recognitions, employee of the month, because those are also measuring their value at the job. And employers always are going to ask, how well do they do their work?
Exactly.
That's very true.
I think one of the examples, I was doing a presentation in one of our classes, and there was a gentleman that was there, and we were talking about resume building, and we got to the part about accomplishments and awards. And one of the things that he had accomplished that he minimized, or he didn't even have on his resume, that he had been nominated multiple times as Employee of the Year.
Oh, wow.
And because he didn't feel like it was relevant, and it was so long ago, but it was multiple times for several years. And I said, that says a lot about your work ethics and what your employer considers and what your employees, your colleagues think of you. So that was an accomplishment that should have definitely been highlighted on his resume. So just having those discussions with the student and helping them understand that this is relevant information because it says a lot about your character. And that's what employers need to see as well.
Yeah, and we're going to address you, the student. A lot of these, you can read about it in our Career Essentials guide. You can read about it on all the websites that are out there. But really, to get the best resume, getting this one-on-one help. Our specialists are here not just to read through the booklet and say, here's step-by-step. They do provide that service. But pulling out, teasing out those personal details about your background, about your history, about where you really have done well, this is where they can help. Creating a resume causes a lot of anxiety in a lot of people. I know that it does for me, it does for each of you. So please take advantage of these services. These tips and highlights are one thing, but meeting one-on-one with our specialists is really where you can get to where you need to be with your resumes. So Abigail, I'm looking back over kind of the things we had talked about as far as resumes. We also have a resume review rubric that we include in our Career Essentials Guide. Can you give us a little information about why that may be relevant for a student to review?
Yes, of course. So granted, when you meet with one of us, you will walk out with the confidence in order to, go back and review the information, or, whether it be down the line, you have the skills now to, format your resume again, to pick out several things that you think are most relevant. So you will have those skills. However, a resume, every section, all details, anything that's written or unwritten, it matters. And we have this rubric for you all in order for you to go step by step, and there's some things you might miss. And the rubric will be there for you to identify what is it that you might have missed. Again, we don't.
It's a good checklist,
Exactly.
right? Just make sure
exactly.
you've included the things that that employers are looking for. That you did. You check your spelling. Have someone else
Grammar,
read it.
most
That
definitely.
all the sections that we talked about today.
Is your information in past tense or present tense? Those things that it might just go over your mind. It's there to tell you, hey, make sure you went back and checked on this. So yes, it's a great resource.
Yes.
Thank you. That's some outstanding tips on resumes today, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. You want to talk, I think one last thing we talked about was kind of the technologies that we have available for our students. I know that not every student's able to take advantage of our services and to come in for that one-on-one appointment. We also have students who've never had a resume, or they're very early in their job search process, and they don't have a lot of job history too. So can you talk a little bit about the technologies that we have that students can use on their own from our website when they're not able to come in and meet with one of you?
Of course. And nowadays everything's so technology driven.
Yes.
So let me point out Chantel's shirt that says /career. So that's actually our website, austincc.edu/career. And accessing this website will provide you various resources, but the ones I want to highlight is first Career Coach. So Career Coach, again, if you never done a resume before, or you just want to start from scratch.
Yes.
This is a great tool for you to utilize straight from our website. It will allow you to create a resume. Granted, this shouldn't be the resume that you
Not be the resume you give to employers.
Yes, you shouldn't. But it's a good foundation to further build upon. So that is definitely a resource that is out there for anyone to use, granted for free, of course.
Yep.
And another one that I want to highlight that I think is very important to address is JobScan. So JobScan so we talked a little bit about the applicant tracking system before, that system that, filters out resumes. The JobScan software allows us as specialists to do unlimited scans of your resume and comparing it to a job posting in order to see the percentage that your resume actually matches to that job description. And what the data tells us is that they want to see anywhere between a 60 and 80% match. That is going to, give you more of a high chances that your resume is even going to get to a person. And for students, again, CNT specialists have unlimited scans for this. Take advantage of them. Come to us and tell us, or even email us saying hey, I'm just curious to know, am I doing this correctly? And we can even download a report that says, hey, this student didn't have these essential keywords that are stated at, let's just say, 5 times, and not once have we found it in their resume. This is what they should be putting on there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a powerful tool that's available for our specialists to use in the sessions.
Yes.
And just kind of a summary for Career Coach. If you have worked as a sales position, you can enter your resume, put sales position, and it'll pull the common job responsibilities from ONET, so you can build that resume, and then you have to adapt the bullets to what you've done, customize, personalize, and then bring it to a specialist for review. That's our recommendation only.
Yes.
Do y'all have any final tips on the resume? It's a lot to cover. I realize that, but
It's a lot. It's just for students to know that even in the Career Essential Guides that we actually have sample resumes that are available, as well as our rubrics for the resume review, and that definitely is looking at what's in the headings, what's in the education, making sure, just like with JobScan, those key things are listed on the resume. So just checking off those boxes is going to be really key, and definitely having a C&T specialist review the resume prior to. And like Abby was talking about, it's definitely important when you're targeting a specific audience and employer, is that your resume is really targeted and you have that relevant information that's going to really be attractive to the employer. So that's key.
All right. Edgar, any last thoughts on the resume? I know it's a lot to cover.
I just want to mention that I enjoy working with people doing the resumes because it's actually a pre-interview prep type of activity. To be able to have somebody ask you and you're explaining what your skills are, competencies, and how then you would explain them in an interview is good practice. So, and remember that the resume, the interview, the resume application interview, and the final interview should all be consistent, saying the same things that you put initially in writing. So a resume definitely should be a tight, precise tool used.
Exactly. Yep.
Good words. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up and head to a commercial. We'll return shortly for information on the job search. Thank you.
Is ACC for entrepreneurs?
Yes.
Is ACC for foodies?
Yes.
Is ACC for...
Yes. ACC is for everyone.
Welcome back to the forum. Today's topic is resumes and the job search. We're going to follow up now with Edgar Medina. Edgar's kind of an expert when it comes to helping students in their job search. You want to get started and give us some tips today?
Sure. Thanks for having me here today, Trish, and allowing me to talk about one of the subjects that I really like. First of all, job search is something that is not stagnant. It's something that you have to constantly update. You have to research, find new tools, and basically be active. Okay, it's something that we here at ACC really focus on in bringing to our students. So let me start out by first mentioning that we have a job and internship bank. Okay, that's loaded with many employers and organizations that are looking to give our students opportunities, especially in their new career, or survival job, or an opportunity for them to expand their skills. And so we have that in a electronic format that they can go in, and it's called ACC Career Link, also known as
Purple Briefcase.
So you might hear it referred to under those terms. The primary thing that we want students to do is to be able to go to one place and to find opportunities. So we do have the link that's accessible online through our career services page. Chantel, you sure? Okay, /career, and it has a tab that says jobs and internships, and we invite students to sign on. Some of the activities included in that job bank are developing a profile, uploading your resume, and being able to research or do career exploration through various information tabs that we have in the system. So one of the formats that I always ask students to participate is in developing the profile so that when employers are looking for candidates, that they can go in and review who's available, whether it's by department or by career, and so that they can stand out. Okay. So it's not complicated. It may be something that you consistently update. Okay. And then we also have what we call career-related jobs and opportunities that a person can put their interest in, have it filtered through, and get those opportunities emailed to them if they activate their alert.
If they activate their alerts.
And that's another great feature. You don't have to keep going back in. It'll notify you when those opportunities open up. But besides that, we're also developing other job search, or we call job networking opportunities here at ACC. We found that not only are employers posting positions, but they're also planning for and looking for new talent. And so we have developed some activities here on campus that will allow students to interact with employers. Some of them include job fairs and our career fest. But as I ask students to, when they're engaging with people, whether it's externally or internally, is to have a resume, always handy, okay?
Yes.
Present themselves to a person, a representative, not by asking what they're looking for, who are they hiring, or what are they hiring for, but to look at their resume, to sort of give them feedback, to see if they would be a good fit for the organization.
Yeah.
So that's one of the tips about doing your networking. Of course, having a pitch and being able to communicate what you're studying and what your plans are, but also being able to have something that may be your calling card, which could be your
Tangible,
resume,
something
tangible,
tangible.
right? So networking is very important. We do have, again, some featured events, okay? Something that I think we mentioned earlier, the ACC Fest, which is an all-departmental professionals on board at one weekend activity where the community is invited to come in, as well as our students, and to interact with people that have accomplished their career goals.
Yes, it's a great networking and career exploration opportunity.
Yes.
Yes, and students, keep in mind, we all started where you're starting now.
Yeah.
Okay?
Exactly.
We've all been in your position, so being able to interact with professionals or people in a similar career and finding out what pathways they took is very important. And so, keep in mind, job searching isn't just searching for a job. It's opportunities, it's knowledge, it's finding out
Expanding.
the connections about being a good fit. Okay.
Yeah.
We also have on-campus events. Okay. We're very big on having employers attending many fairs, employers representing their organization here on campus, tabling as we call them.
And those are great
career.
opportunities for our students to
Yes.
get some one-on-one time with an employer, right?
Yes.
I mean, we'll have some really good name employers that come on campus. They want to hire the students, and this is your opportunity to talk to them.
Yes, and I really enjoy taking that to the classrooms because I do informal polls and I ask how many are students still working in their high school job, how much they're making, and they are pleasantly surprised to hear some of the employers that are paying more for college jobs, okay, and career-related jobs, that they can start developing that experience. Keep in mind that we as college are aware what employers are asking for when they graduate.
Yes.
And it could be a degree with experience, and this is a great chance to utilize our resources to get into something that will count as experience. So I encourage students to utilize our resources. And then we'll have a big spring job fair. Remember last year's
Yeah.
spring job fair?
Yes,
Wasn't
that
that
was
Coming
fun?
up
an
next year.
exciting event.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Awesome.
great. I think we had
We have great
a line out
attendance.
the door for certain employers. We had over 130 employers,
Yeah.
with a couple thousand students and community members. I actually saw some students from other campuses
Yes.
come to our ACC Spring Fair.
From other colleges.
Which says a lot. Other colleges, yeah.
Yeah.
That says a lot about how
universities,
successful
yes.
that event
So that
was.
is our premier spring event, the Job Fair and Career Exploration event. We host it each year at the Highland campus. It's in building 1000, and we've already scheduled the date for April 17th. And we have about 60 employers that are already on the waiting list before we open registration. But for that event, we have employers in every area of study. And it really is an outstanding opportunity for our students to come and meet face to face with those key employers in their areas of interest and their majors. Last year, one of the premier employers we had on site was IBM, and they had a line out the door. So if you're interested in a field, you should let us know what employer you'd like to see there, and we could help you make those connections and invite them out to our job fair. So come talk to us.
And don't forget, the week before, we'll be setting up stations.
Yes.
So that students can walk up to our table and for resume reviews or wanting to find out questions asked at the fair. And so we'll be preparing them for the big event.
Yeah, get them
which I hope that
ready.
they
Job
take
fair
part in.
preparation stations
Preparation,
on
yeah.
every campus, intensive resume clinics, and mock interviews, which is one of what we're actually going to transition into next. We're going to have Chantel talk to us a little bit about interviews and preparing for that.
Good. And then I think one of the things we're venturing more into is the industry-related events.
Yes.
This last year we had the BIT fair,
Yes.
here in Building 4000, where we invited employers, departments to come and pre-interview and recruit our graduate students from the IT industry. So I see that as a positive, and more of those in the future, where we're going to do them by industry, so that each department then we can collaborate with and get our students the opportunities.
Absolutely.
One thing I do want to do is encourage our students to really take advantage of the resources and the opportunities that we bring to the campus for these students. One of the things I see is always a low participation when we have our tabling events with our employers on campus. We bring this information to you as a student, so you can have these employers, you have access to these employers. So I really want to encourage you as students to take advantage of these resources, because these employers are here and reaching out to you. So we're bringing the employers to you, so that way you know exactly what these employers are looking for, and then you can come to us to really help you build that resume and build those interviewing skills to where you can land that job, because it's key. So that's why I'm excited about what our department does and the resources that we do offer for our students.
I want to say that part of the job seeking process is just getting comfortable with that process. So again, if you see these employers on campus, just go and talk to them. Trust me, they want to talk to someone. They don't want to be just sitting
they just
there.
don't want to sit there.
Yeah, so you know, make yourself, even if it's something you're not even interested in, that's okay. Just go up, have that conversation.
It's that networking piece that Edgar was just talking about.
Exactly.
Yes.
Just be comfortable. Know what it's like to talk to a representative, because whenever that opportunity does arise for you, you know what to do. You feel comfortable.
Yes.
I just want to add to that, we are aware that students studying is first. We want to bring around the employers that will work around their schedule. And my favorite is the tuition reimbursement aspect.
Oh, yes.
If Lowe's, instead of Home Depot, wants to give you tuition reimbursement, why continue working for the other guy, right?
Yeah.
So, we just have them here on campus, and I was happy to say that many students, when they heard that word, tuition reimbursement, or tuition paid, meaning that they'll pay part of it. When you go to school, go to a company that offers that opportunity.
That is the part. And you brought that up, and I was in Bill Miller's the other day getting me a breakfast stock on the way to Cypress. And I was looking, and they started at $11 an hour. But what caught my attention, they do tuition reimbursement. And this right down the street from our Cypress campus. So what is that? It's an opportunity for students. And that tells me that the employer is going to be flexible with that scheduling, with
and that's
knowing
part
that.
of what we do in career services. We talk to the employers and make sure that we recruit employers that provide a benefit to our students, that either have flexible schedules for the students, or they provide tuition reimbursement.
That's key.
We do try to find the positions that pay $15 an hour, because that's what we've established as a livable wage for the Austin area. But Wash and Roll, it's a car wash. It's down the street from the Cypress Creek campus. They provide flexible schedules and tuition reimbursement.
Because that, even because of the cost, the wage, that offset is that tuition reimbursement, because that's something that you can use to, to complete your education and not have the stress of how am I going to pay for my classes.
And then we will work with you, Abigail and Edgar and Chantel, to identify those transferable skills. Because you may work at Whataburger, but you're getting management leadership skills.
Exactly.
You're learning how to fill out that accomplishment statement on your resume. So we'll work with you on that. So thank you. And I think we're going to go ahead and take another commercial break, but we'll be back quickly to wrap things up with Chantel Harper and go over some of the interview skills that'll help you with your finding that job.
Yes.
So thank you.
My name is Sydney Campbell. I'm an Area of Study Advising Specialist at the Northridge campus for ACC, and we're at ACC Fest 2019. ACC Fest is a way for the community to come out and be able to see all the programs that we offer, talk to different faculty and staff. The event is mostly for probably seniors in high school, really the community, anyone who is seeking a way to a career, maybe wanting to better themselves, get a better job.
There's all kinds of resources available to them for the community, for online courses to improve their skills and their knowledge, and then, of course, increase their income eventually. It's important for them to understand all these resources. They may not be aware of everything that ACC has to offer, and it's especially important for the staff to connect with future students.
ACC is for everyone, so anyone who's interested in finding a career, bettering their life, or just wants to learn, this is the place you want to be.
Welcome back to the forum. When we left off, Edgar Medina was discussing job search best practices, and we're going to move on now to Chantel Harper. She's going to introduce us to interviewing skills and some top tips and techniques for being your best on the interview.
Yes.
Thank you, Chantel.
Thank you, Trish. Once again, it's a pleasure just to be here with my team, just to talk about what we do and how we do what we do so well. Just a little bragging rights for our department. But I just want to talk about briefly some of the interviewing tips that are really key for our students making this transition from college to career. Landing that job, because when you're talking about all the components of the resume and then the job search seeking part of it, now I'm at this point, I got the interview. Yay! Now how do I secure this job? And your interview is going to be key. That is really key, and that's your platform or your opportunity to tell the employer what you're bringing to the table, giving them a clear snapshot of who you are. So some of the tips that we do offer in our Career Essential Guides are listed on our page 40 through 47, which you can actually get our Career Service Career Essentials Guide off of our Career Link website. So you actually download it. It's actually in PDF form on our Career Service website, and as well as hard copy. When we do our presentations, we usually have Essentials Guide available for our students. When we give presentations or different campuses, we actually have the books available throughout campuses.
And even in the one-on-one sessions.
When we do our one-on-one sessions, we use this as a tool and a resource for our students. But some of the things that we need to do, or what I do, or what we do as career specialists and career transfer specialists, is when we're talking to our students about interviewing, so we're helping them prepare for the interview. So we have so many resources, so many tools that we use. We have our big interview where students can utilize that resource to actually videotape themselves doing their mock interviews, and then kind of seeing where they're lacking as far as their interviewing skills. And then we also do our mock interview sessions we do one-on-one sessions with ourselves, and part of that mock interview session is really helping them prepare for looking at the resume and showing how that resume is really aligning with what the employers are looking for, and then helping them navigate through that process of answering those dreaded questions that a lot of people hate when they go into the interviews. I'm serious, and the one thing is the question is always, tell me about yourself. How do you answer that question? And a lot of students, a lot of individuals don't know how to professionally answer that question, because a lot of times we talk about our personal stuff. And that's not what we should be talking about. We are talking about our professional selves, who we are as an individual, as a professional, and what we're bringing to the table. That's what that employer needs to know when we're asking that question, or when that employer is asking that question about, tell me about yourself. And then other things is being able to articulate how your education has equipped you for this job. You see, because if you don't have a lot of work experience, or you're lacking in that experience, and you're making that career transition, and your only relevant experience right now is your academic knowledge. How can you articulate that to the employer, saying, how is this education has equipped me for this position? So helping students pull that information out, and how not to just tell me about the course you took, but tell me about that content that you learned. What knowledge have you gained from those courses, and how is it applicable to this job that you're applying for? So articulating or being able to articulate your coursework and showing how that is relevant for the job that you're applying, especially if you're a student with no experience trying to get into an entry-level position, or even applying for internships. So that is key. And then those behavioral questions about, tell me a time that you had a conflict and how you resolved that conflict. That is a question where it comes to showing the employer about your accountability and your responsibility as an individual, and how well you can work and manage conflict among your team members. Because they want to know that if we're working together as a team, we can resolve the issue and the conflict that we had as a team, and it shouldn't have escalate to the point to where it gets to our supervisor. As a team, we should be able to manage that conflict and come up with a resolution of how we resolve that conflict and continue to work, and it not affect us working together as a team. So that's what employers are looking for, but how do you articulate that? I tell students a lot of times, your classroom is your place of employment. Your instructor is your supervisor, your classmates are your peers, your coworkers. How you work in teams in your classroom, you're gaining those skills, then how you can articulate those same things in an interview as when you're resolving conflict, and how do you work well as a team, or give me situations where you work together as a team. So I try to use that as an analogy to really help students understand the importance of building those relationships in those communities, even within the classroom. Why? Because that's going to help you with your interviewing skills.
Yeah.
That's going to help you articulate in the interviews. And then some of the other things that we use is our STAR stories, the situations, the tasks, the actions, and the results. What was the situation, what is the task, what is the action, and then what was the result. So once again, that conflict resolution, those
and
situations.
If that sounds a little bit familiar, I'm going to address the students here for just a minute. We talked about this with the resume, the PAR formula for writing your accomplishment statements. We also have the STAR formula for helping you answer the interview questions, and you should write these out in advance and be prepared so that you can answer any question no matter what it is. So situation, task, action, results.
And I want to go back even to that, tell me about yourself in that profession, and not making it a personal statement, and not telling people so much about who you are from a personal perspective. Why? Is because a lot of times you can open that door for those illegal questions to come up that shouldn't be asked in an interview, and those questions shouldn't be about disability, about how many kids do you have transportation. Why? Because that can eliminate you from a job. So that's why you want to tell them about your professional self and not your personal self, because you don't want to open a door for someone to ask you a question that is illegal, and you might not even realize that question that they're asking you is illegal. But understanding that and knowing that even if you have medical conditions or disabilities, that you don't have to disclose that information in the interview, and it's not a question that should be asked in an interview. But one of the ways they can ask is, do you need any special accommodations in regards, because employers under the ADA Act is required, or should be, to provide accommodations within reason. So it's just the way the employer asks the question that makes it illegal or legal. So always stay professional when you're answering those questions. So we really help you prepare that elevator pitch about, tell me about yourself, so that way when that question comes up about tell me about yourself, you can actually tell them your professional you, who you are, about your brand and what you're bringing to the table. So that's really key.
It's very good information. I want to kind of pull back to our guide here, and we refer to this career essentials guide so much because it's a good tool for us, and it's a good tool that you can use on your own. But some of the steps that you can take, quick steps to prepare for an interview: check your resume, check it twice. Know your experience like you know your coffee order.
Exactly.
We actually put this in the guide for you, because you want a caramel macchiato, hot with venti and all that. I don't know my coffee order, but you know yours, and you should know your experience. So this is part of the interview process too. Get ready to do that elevator pitch. research the company in
Exactly.
advance. You want to know about the company. They don't just want to know about you. You should know about them. These are tips to really be prepared for the resume. Edgar, do you have some advice you'd like to throw in for you?
I'm a big fan of the big interview software. I frequently get asked questions of what kind of questions will I be asked. And so I always have students to log in. We build universal questions, career-related questions. I have them review it. It talks about boundaries, how to answer. You can actually get yourself videotape. And then I sit down with the student and we do it live after they've prepped themselves. So there's different preparation tools as well as actually being able to do it with a person. One of the advice employer gave recently to me was to test your students or prepare them to think on their feet, okay, right then and there. Even though the questions might be where you're preparing the answers for them, they may throw in some questions that are going to see if that person there can think, process, and articulate things. And it could be related to the field or not related to the field. So that's one of the things about practicing interviewing is to getting the stress release low so you can then utilize that technique or that, that skill of thinking on your feet. And as one employer, I believe from Oracle, said, ask your students to practice interviewing. And the more you do, the easier it'll be and the better you'll be able to do it.
And that's what you're here for, is to really help the students.
Practice.
There's a lot of anxiety around resumes. There's a lot of anxiety around the job search. There's a lot of anxiety about an interview. It's a very personal experience, and we understand that it can be a stressful time for students. So I encourage each of you out there to take advantage of our career transfer specialists that can really help you navigate the process. They're the specialists. I mean, you have a ton of experience, and I appreciate that you bring this to the table, but what we haven't really addressed is how anxiety provoking that can be, and how working with each of you, and how nice and kind and professional you all are, that you really provide a value-added service to the students to help them through this process and really be their best selves. So.
And don't forget to remind them that we go to them.
Exactly.
Yes,
We'll go right after your class at your campus.
Yes.
During
We're
your
very
lunch hour.
accommodating.
Yeah, we'll
very
accommodate.
accommodating
We're there.
to our
We're
students.
mobile.
And our purpose is, and our goal is to build that confidence for our students, you see, and that's really important. That's why we go through the steps that we go through. So when they leave there, they're confident, because when you go in that interview and you're confident in your skills and your abilities, you can articulate, and that relieves a lot of that stress and anxiety. So when students meeting with us and they're talking about their resume and they start identifying, oh, I do have this skill set and I do have these abilities. I mean, that builds their confidence. And that's our goal. Our goal is to build our students' confidence. So when they go in there, whether it's our current students or our former students, our alumni students who are coming back and getting the same service and this assistance, is that they walk in that interview with confidence. So when they're reviewing their resume after they met with us, and they're like, yeah, I got this. You know, this is my job. You know, or doing that job search and identifying and not minimizing their skill sets, but after going after that job, that career that they really want, knowing that they have the resume that is going to help them get that job, or at least get them into that interview. Yeah,
so helping with the resume is what got them to the interview.
Yes.
And identifying the ability to really narrow down that job search, the tools and the technologies available to help with that is really, really key. We hope that you've learned a little something about resumes, interviews, and job search techniques that will help you prepare for success. Preparing for careers and employment, it does take a lot of time, and it takes some strategy. One of the things we haven't yet addressed today is we have a leading edge job search training course, Strategies for the Job Seeking Community. This is an intensive 8-session course, and it's designed to increase your employment opportunities and increase the employment opportunity outcomes, and this will help you succeed in Austin's competitive job market. One of the stats that we talk about a lot is that 46% of students are underemployed in their first job. By taking courses and taking advantage of courses such as the Strategies for the Job Seeking Community, you're more likely to get hired in a job that requires your credential, and you're likely to earn 17% more than you would if you had not taken advantage of this course or with each of our students. We also have career counselors that can help you. So if you're stuck and undecided in your career, contact us at austincc.edu/career. We have a hotline, we have an email, you can contact us. And before we end today, I'd like to say thank you to Abigail, to Edgar, and to Chantel. And if you have any closing quick tips for our students, now would be the time.
I would say this isn't an easy process for anyone. And, you know, like Chantal has mentioned, Edgar and Trish, like, it's about building up your confidence. Don't let that waver. You are amazing. You know what you have done. You know what you can present and bring to the table. Just keep going. And, you know, we're here to guide you through that process. We're here to feel sad if you need to feel sad. That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. Like, these emotions are fine. But just keep going. It's all about going forward.
Yes.
And like I said again, you know, we're here to help you develop these skills. We're not here to like tell you what to do all the time. It's like, no, we want you to develop yourself.
Exactly. It's about professional development.
I would encourage students to get to know their future career or to establish their career goals early. Research shows that students who plan and prepare a pathway for their career end up accomplishing them. Those accomplish it more than those that don't plan.
Yes.
And we're here to help you get more oriented and
Navigate it.
familiar with your career, whether it's through networking or career-related activities. And so encourage everyone to utilize their services.
Exactly. I think just to piggyback off what you said, that career pathway is just identifying what that career goal looks like for you long term. And our goal is to help you navigate those pathways to get to that career goal. So starting here and helping you make that transition work for you, whether it's within the first 5 years or that last 5 years of your career, but just knowing what that career goal is. And our goal is to help you reach that goal.
Thank you all. That's great advice. Thank you again for joining us at the forum. austincc.edu/careers where you should start. Thank you.